Body shot, ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When the adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
And still, Francis Ngannou retains his heavyweight championship against former interim champion Ciryl Gane. Listen, I was hearing once upon a time, I think it was Rob Whittaker, saying, hey, could you imagine if the Hulk did jiu-jitsu? Well, I think that is going to be our new example of what Francis Ngannou is. He is the Hulk in the UFC's heavyweight division, doing jiu-jitsu, wrestling, slamming, everything. It was beautiful. It was impressive. But we also learned a lot about Bon Gamin, Ciryl Gane. He could take Ngannou's power and take the man 5 rounds. It's only a matter of time until he is the heavyweight champion, folks. But in other news, we got new Deuce to get it. Deiveson Figueiredo, he reclaims his men's flyweight championship over Brandon Moreno in a unanimous decision victory. That is the trilogy, folks. They're now 1-1-1. I think we're destined to see a 4th fight. It'll be the first match. First off, they're the first fighters to go 3 fights in a row with just fighting each other. Now we're gonna make it 4? I don't know. We'll talk about it. But first, let me bring in my co-host, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber. AJ, brother, you are off to a hot start this year, my man. 8-3 on the year. I think you went what, 4-2, 4-1. I think 4-1 this weekend. I was on the opposite end of it, brother. I was on a very miserable 1-4, but I got the most important fight correct, and that was Francis Ngannou. AJ, let's take a second, and can we completely announce it right here? Y'all must have forgot Francis Ngannou edition, brother. Tell me what you thinking.
Ooh, y'all must have forgot, man. Fall in love with the new shiny toy. You didn't realize, like you said, you got that Hulk that can do jiu-jitsu that there, in the background. This dude, man, crazy impressive. I was telling Derick, the mics were so cold the second I saw Francis Ngannou catch that front kick, lift Ciryl Gane off the feet and slam him. I was like, this is he knows what he needs to do, man. This is the new game. So Francis Ngannou completely just became that full martial artist, no longer just the scary power attacker, man. This dude has some legit skills. It's gonna be a long time till somebody comes and takes that belt off him. I'm thinking, man, it's a very, very impressive win for Francis Ngannou and proving all the haters wrong, proving them. Yeah. I got some jiu-jitsu skills over here, not just the power. Very impressive for Francis Ngannou.
Absolutely, brother. One of the things that Ngannou has stated in his last couple of fights is that he generally just doesn't get the chance to show off his new skills that he's acquired because the fights end so quickly. But like I said, Gane was able to take some of that power. It was interesting, man. Overall on this card that was a little half-baked, UFC 270, a lot of cancellations, 11 canceled bouts. Listen, man, I mean, we had 5 finishes, 45% finish rate. Most of the finishes kind of came in the prelims, a couple for the first two fights for the main card. But what do you rate it, brother? Was this $75 worth of a pay-per-view right here, even with the craziness that was Figgy Moreno 3 and Ngannou Gane?
As entertaining as Figgy Moreno 3 and a pretty damn good fight for Francis Ngannou Gane, man, I'd say I'd rank this about like a 7. Yeah. I don't know if I'd say it's worth it. The prelims, man, prelims had some fire on it. Yeah. So the fact that we got those for free, I guess it adds a little bit to it. But I'd still go about like a 7 out of 10 on this card, man. Not the best we've seen, especially for that price increase, what, 75, 80 bucks, whatever it was. Crazy.
Yeah, $75, man. Couldn't be me. But I will say, man, that the card did deliver in terms of the prelims. I do agree with you, man. And we got a lot to talk about there. So before we jump into anything, AJ, man, I just want to give a couple of quick highlights, man, for the prelims, folks. Okay, listen, obviously we have our segments, right? We got our fighter of the night, we got all that good stuff, man. And this one didn't make the cut from me, but one fighter that I need to show some love to is Vanessa Demopoulos. AJ, brother, I know about Vanessa Demopoulos specifically because she had a little bit of a storied regional career, right? Former LFA champion, I believe. And she fought Maiha, Valerie Soto, right? That's someone who I had interviewed. It was one of the first interviews that we had on this program, and she fought to a very, very, I think it was like a split decision win that Demopoulos got on Soto. Well, what do you know? That was at flyweight. All these years later, moves down to strawweight, fights in the UFC, gets rocked by one of the nastiest right hands I've seen in the women's strawweight division, and immediately sets up an armbar Silvana Gomez Juarez, and finishes the fight in one of the most incredible comebacks that I've seen in quite some time, AJ. Can we agree here, my man? In the women's strawweight division, that was a sight to see. That was a beauty in motion right there. What do you think about that?
Man, a sight to see, Derick. I don't think we've seen power that Silvana Gomez Juarez landed like that ever in any of the women's classes, whether it's strawweight, flyweight, whatever it is. There was some serious heat behind that. And the fact that Demopoulos, she even admitted herself, she's like, I woke up on the canvas. She woke up on the canvas and threw a girl in an arm bar, and a pretty deep arm bar, man. Had her twerking, man. Had her tweaking. It was a rough one. Not twerking, but she had that arm in all kinds of danger, man. And the fact that she's had the mental capacity to actually get that done, see the attack, and then even her statement, she said, "Oh, I was happy because I saw literally, oh, I'm in an arm bar, cool," and then started working for it. Man, very, very impressive from Demopoulos. And even a very impressive fight for Gomez Juarez, man. Crazy power she has in there, man. It was wild.
And it's crazy to think that Gomez Juarez is like 37 years old, dude, over there just delivering power, man. So as far as over and unders go, folks, like I said, it was a rough night at the office for my picks. A little bit of a rough night for the over and unders too. I went 2-3 on the over and unders. AJ went 3-2 on his. So listen, man, he is hot across the board right now. But just like he would tell me last year, man, it's the short memory. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get it back. No card next week, but we have a weird 1 week break early on in the year, man. But when we get back to the next card, we back at it, brother. You dig? So for the meantime, folks, apologies getting off mic. For the meantime, folks, listen. Patience is a virtue. Let's get it, brother. AJ, man, before we talk about more sleepers and all of that good stuff, man, I think it's probably best that we just kind of blend it all into the photo collection. So, folks, if you haven't, drop a like, subscribe. We appreciate you, man. Let's get over to 350 subscribers here in the near future. But, if anything, just show some love. BloodyWaterPodcast.com. You dig. All right, AJ, let's get into a little bit of a photo collection, brother. And we're doing a little bit different this time around, man. And, I had to start it off with the Vanessa Demopoulos, of course, right? But I'm going to make the photos a little bit bigger, and I'm going to deprioritize us, folks. So if you're watching, a little bit different. If you're listening, folks, it's the same great content you always got. We're going to do our best to explain what it is that we're seeing, and I wanted to start it off with this one, man. It's perfect timing. Vanessa Demopoulos jumps in the arms of Joe Rogan after she hit the splits. Very improv, but I'll tell you this much, AJ. If Demopoulos can keep a couple wins together in the UFC, stack a couple good wins together, she has the personality and the charisma to become a star in the division, if she can do it. Because I will say, man, it was not looking good until she locked up that armbar. So, you never know. It is the fight game. But what do you think of the photo?
Man, this is a person taking full advantage of the situation. She saw Joe Rogan. She even said, she was like, I forget the exact quote that she had, but she was so excited to see Joe, very excited. And then you saw her get the idea. I'm gonna have this dude hold me up, put his arm around, jumped up top. Even Joe had to scramble a little bit. Like, what are we doing? Get the mic in order. This is somebody seeing the moment they want to have and creating their own image of what they want their life to be. I love it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it is an incredible moment. You can see it's just jubilation on her face. And at the end of the day, man, it's like to have the wherewithal to be able to cut that. That's cutting a promo in its own weird type of way. But like I said, man, that's star potential right there. And that is the mindset of a former champion. She's a former regional champion, but a champion nonetheless. Okay, AJ, let's move on to the next photo right here, man. So this is going to be a little bit like what I was talking to you about before, man. What was it, last week when it was Ramiz Brahimaj just getting kind of pummeled by Court McGee? Well, this is the pressure that the steamroller Matt Frevola puts on you when he gets his opportunity. This was Genaro Valdez, and listen, man, this was a big win for the steamroller Matt Frevola, but this was must-win territory. This was the last fight on his contract. It is yet to be determined whether he will be renewed in the UFC or not, but I think this was a hell of a performance to put on in your last fight on your contract. And AJ, can I get a little credit? This was my sleeper, and I think this one delivered. This was a banger alert. Should have been a performance of the night, in my opinion, because he ended up dropping dude like 4 or 5 times. But either way, give me your take on the photo.
Yeah, Derick, definitely a banger of a fight right here, and the fight that Frevola needed. He needed a performance to kind of get him back to where he was before he kind of had that little slip up. I like this one a lot, man. You can see Genaro literally on the bottom. I don't know if he's looking at his corner, looking into the abyss. He's just looking like, do somebody get this dude off of me, while Frevola's just landing some mean elbows on top. great fight. And like I said, Frevola really needed this one.
Yeah, brother. And I think that's the look of just getting drowned right there, man, is when someone is drowning you with pressure, drowning you with pace. When you're the guy that drowns everybody and someone does that back to you, I think that's the reaction that you have on your face right there, man. Okay, let's see. Let's move on to this next one. This is another prelim one. This is somebody that we talked about, but I think that this was one of the most beautiful performances I saw in the entire card. I could not name this man my fighter of the night, so this is a preview. This is not him, but he deserves it. There's too many good fighters on this card. We could only pick one. But this is Jack Della Maddalena, man. And to see what he did to Pete Rodriguez was incredible because he looked like a pro's pro right there. Like, he looked like your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. He was in and out, flowing, switching southpaw orthodox off of checked kicks and all of that good stuff, man. And the power of Pete Rodriguez, who, listen, man, his longest fight was like 2 minutes. Maddalena took his time, came back. I think it was like a counter left hand that just put the man to bed. Couple follow-up shots because that's the name of the game. But listen, man, this is a dude who's coming for violence, coming for glory, coming for guts. Give me your take on this photo right here.
It's almost a shame that there were so many good performances on this fight, because I agree with you, Derick. Maddalena absolutely showed up, showed out. And if you see some of the other, or if you watch this fight or see some of the other pictures from it, you can see Pete Rodriguez just absolutely busted up in the mouth, man. He ate a dirty right hand, and then that, like you said, that counter left that put him down. It was a very impressive performance by Maddalena, man. I like this one.
Yeah, brother. It was the jab that was eating up Pete Rodriguez all day long. Like it couldn't miss. He was just it wasn't really pawing it out there. It was a nice jab, but I'll just tell you what, man. I cannot wait to see Jack Della Maddalena fight again in the UFC, because we knew what he could do. I told you he was stiffing dudes out in the regional scene, but to come and do this, I mean, against a Pete Rodriguez, it's impressive business to me. If you're asking me, very impressive business. Okay, AJ, let's move on to another one. I guess I'm going to move on to this one because I should have did this one for the second photo, but this was just that armbar right there for Vanessa Demopoulos and, Silvana Gomez-Juarez. And I just wanted to point out real fast the eyes of Gomez-Juarez. You see her eyes? If you could see her eyes, then you could see that's the look of, oh, shit, I'm about to get armbarred. Because that's the same look that I get when I'm like, no, they're set. Like, I could see the setup, and I'm like, okay, I know I could tough it out, or I could stack them up, or I could do whatever. She didn't do quite good enough of a job of stacking, and with those big UFC gloves, man, it's easy to hook onto that arm right there and just hold on to it, brother. But I will tell you, man, I don't know if you've done any grappling when you've done no gi, or even less than no gi, when there's just no shirts involved, which is basically how they're fighting. So slippery, so hard to actually lock in those arm bars. So to see her do it successfully was crazy. But give me your comment on the eyes of a Gomez-Juarez here.
Man, she's staring, trying so hard to fight the hands, doing like she's supposed to. Like you said, did a decent job of stacking up until Demopoulos was able to roll over and actually get it on her back. Yeah. But you can see the look of panic of, oh shit. She knows what she needs to do, but she's trying real hard to hold it together, man.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Okay, move on into higher notes, man. This is going to be the first fight of the main card, but this is the unfortunate reality of a man who is a little overconfident in who he's fighting and is walking forward with reckless abandon, especially when you move down a weight class for the first time in your career. So this is Trevin Giles getting caught with a counter right hand. Listen, he's been a middleweight, been a small middleweight basically his whole career. He moved down to welterweight, was a big welterweight, and actually looked like he hurt Morales a little bit, man. You know what I mean? It was a great start to the fight, and came in overconfident, came in a little reckless, and got caught. But this was that literally like picture perfect, right when you get caught right there. Give me your take, brother.
It's always rough whenever your chin is touching your shoulder. And man, yeah, this was it was actually a real fun fight for the whole 4 minutes that it lasted or whatever it was. Yeah. Kevin Giles was doing really good, but sometimes you just get caught. He was in the middle of throwing that right hand, but it just Morales' right hand caught him a little quicker, a little cleaner. And like I said, when anytime your chin is touching your shoulder, it's a rough night for you. Yeah,
absolutely, man. It was a great effort until it wasn't, and that's the story of mixed martial arts right there, man. Okay, let's move on to Michel Pereira versus Andre Fialho, man. This was a war. This was back and forth, two men exchanging shots. A fighter out of Portugal who I think had a really good showing for himself. It wasn't good enough. You drop your UFC debut, but this is a man that people have known about for years, a man that people have been saying is UFC ready for pretty much years at this point, AJ. So, just with the look on both of these fighters, this could be like a Rocky poster right here, man. These two are getting after it. Give me your take on the photo.
I think this is a good photo to represent what that entire fight was too, man. You can see Fialho's getting chin checked. Same thing with Pereira getting chin checked. Both fighters just going at it entirely, swinging, eyes closed because they know that another one's coming back at their direction soon. Yeah, good fight. And honestly, man, Fialho did a great job too. No, a very impressive debut. He didn't stop going forward. He literally the entire time put up a great fight against Pereira. Great photo. Like I said, this encompasses exactly what this fight was, man. Both of them swinging the entire time, connecting with each other. A real good fight.
Absolutely. And of course, we'll break that down a little bit in more detail in just a few. But this is the other photo that you always have to include because this is just what Pereira does to people, man. You know, he's always flying through the air, throwing rolling thunder kicks, you know, just all types of craziness, man. My question to you is like, it seems like every single fight, and like I said, I don't want to give too much on this, so just give me a quick little comeback on this. But every single fight, Pereira, his cardio is getting a little bit better. He gets to be a little more acrobatic in every single one of his fights, man. How much of an element do you think that acrobatics bring to the fight when he's fighting these dudes? Because you don't have to just deal with just straight punches, a dude just trying to kickbox or box with you. You have to deal with the dude who's literally like an athletic capoeira type fighter who's going to hit you with all types of randomness. So what do you think?
Oh man, I think it adds a big one, especially if he can land clean. And the funny thing about this, his corner right before, this is in the second or the third, there was a moment where his corner comes, he's like, let's go have some fun, man. Let's go have some fun out there. This dude threw like 5 flying knee attempts and then a jumping roundhouse. This dude is crazy, bro. So I think that's a big part to the game that you need to be worried about, man. You get caught clean with the round, like a spinning back fist or whatever it is, something that you don't see. Yeah. That's Pereira's style.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. And then when we're talking about the 2 title fights, the first one, man, listen, this was just a back and forth war between Moreno and Figueiredo. I really do think we're going to see a 4th fight, but we'll talk about that more in a second. But ultimately, what that led to was Figueiredo, man, reclaiming gold. One of the big things that I wanted to just touch on in this photo, man, you have Coach Eric and you have Henry Cejudo that are carrying Figueiredo, man. And just quickly, I don't want to make this about the coaches because the fighter is the one who did the job. The fighter is the one who secured the gold. But Henry Cejudo, how impressive, man. People going over to fight ready with them. And listen, man, the scientific approach that they take over there, man, they're getting people where they need to be in their careers, man. They're figuring it out. What do you think of the photo and the Henry Cejudo situation?
Great photo. Like I think they do an amazing job. But just look at the lights in the background, them carrying him, bro. This is one of those Rocky moments. You know, Figueiredo's on top of the world right here. Love the photo. And like I said before, man, Triple C, you know, Triple Cringe. You might get a lot of flack, but they're doing something smart out there. Moreno in the beginning said that he doesn't think that 3 months is enough time to learn all the stuff he needed to learn about him. I think they've got proven wrong right there, man. Figgy had a great performance and a very tactful approach from the coaches, always telling him what they needed to in the corner. Yeah. It was amazing.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that further, man. But in the meantime, beautiful photo. Figueiredo retains gold or reclaims gold, I guess I really should be saying. But it's just, this is going to be one of those that we're going to be talking about this trilogy, this quadrilogy, whatever you want to call it, for a long time, man. And then the last photo that I have for us right here, AJ, man, this is, like I said, just the scariest man on the planet. If a Francis Ngannou can pick up a 250-pound man like Ciryl Gane and dump him on his head like that, I mean, I don't know what more you want from the man. He did it on a blown-out ACL and MCL too. Like, what are we talking about, brother? You saw the knee sleeves in there. I'm just saying, when you look at him, brother, I'm like, this is the Apollo Creeds. This is the, like, you know, this is a superhero right here. This is not a human being. I don't know. What do you think of the photo?
Man, this is that moment I was talking about when he caught the kick and then dumped Ciryl Gane on his back. Man, I was exactly like that girl in the bottom right-hand picture right there. Mouth agape. Yup, that one right there. That was everybody's reaction, man. You could even see Francis Ngannou both feet off the ground. He jumped for this one. We put some pressure on him and had everybody looking mouth agape, man. That is, I think my favorite part of the picture is the crowd in the background, man. All of them just wide-eyed, mouth open. Nobody saw this coming. Great, man. Amazing.
Absolutely, brother. So, all right. I mean, listen, man. Hey, that was the photo collection that we had for you this weekend, folks, at UFC 270. First pay-per-view is down in the books. A lot of really, really good moments. But, hey, man, this is the fight game. Anything can happen. Clearly, we saw that. So, now, AJ, I think it's time that we jump into a little bit of a rankings review, my man. So let's move back on over here. All right, brother. This time we go into a very popular weight class, the men's bantamweight division. And the reason why we need to go to the men's bantamweight division, AJ, is because we have a fighter that has a very reputable name. And listen, he did something that I just, we'll talk about it on the main card, but he starched his opponent in under a minute, or maybe it was just a minute, maybe just took just that, man. But now it has you begging to ask the question of how good is this man in his young, very, very short career, man. So the person that I'm talking about, AJ, is I'm talking about Ciryl Nurmagomedov. And the reason why I pull up these rankings right here, which are our personal rankings alongside with the UFC's consensus rankings, is because we have one of the most stacked divisions, in the UFC right here in the men's bantamweight division. We keep talking about it. We can say it time and time again. But we have a Ciryl Nurmagomedov who beat a Cody Stamann, who is no longer ranked, right? He's not number 15. I got that number from somewhere. He was ranked at one point, but I guess not anymore. What's important, though, is that we know, given his last performance against Merab Dvalishvili, given just his most recent performances, the big wins he's been able to stack up together, Cody Stamann is a legit talent, and he is a top 15 to top 20 type fighter. Ciryl Nurmagomedov came into this fight ranked around number 25. He gets the win over Cody Stamann, makes it look easy, right? Like I said, we'll talk about it in detail in a second. But that makes you beg the question. If he fought and this is what I wanted to talk about it, because neither of us have him in our rankings right now, AJ. So I wanted to ask you, is he ready for the top 15, or is he that top 15 to top 20 fighter? Because the question I need to ask you is, in the UFC's consensus rankings, Rafael Assunção, who is on a 4-fight losing streak, if you matched him up with Ciryl Nurmagomedov right now, who do you think wins that fight?
Man, I'm not gonna give away my pick for the future of who I want to fight just yet, but I absolutely think he runs through a Assunção. Okay. I absolutely think he just tears through a Assunção. Okay. I firmly believe Ciryl Nurmagomedov is one of those top 10 to top 15 fighters at the moment. This dude has some serious heat behind him coming forward.
Well, so that's the really big key right there. So then you can see, folks, right now, both of us, for AJ and myself, we have Adrian Yanez at 15. I got Frankie Edgar at 14. He has Sean O'Malley at 14. I have Sean O'Malley at 13. He has Song Yudong at 13. They're in there for it, right? Song Yudong, Ricky Simone, those are all kind of those top 10 to top 15 fighters in our ranking. So you can go check them out. Obviously, you can see them right here. We've got the whole list. Boom. But we move back to it, AJ. That's the big question, is like, if he could beat a Rafael Assunção, who I don't have in my top 15 anymore just because of the pretty drastic drop-off that he's had in his performance as of late. But if that is the case, then there's an argument to be made that Ciryl Nurmagomedov can technically be a top 15 fighter right now, even though the man is, I think he's 4-1 in his UFC career. He has a 75% finish rate. And listen, now he needs the really big test. Cody Stamann was a big test, but he needs the really, really big test, man. But this is like crazy to me, just because it's like you're 5 fights into your UFC career. You're already kind of considered like you could be a top 15 fighter. But would it be fair if we talk about some of these other names? And just give me a yes or a no. Don't even go in depth on me. Can he beat an Adrian Yanez right now?
Whew. Close fight? I think yeah.
What about a Song Yudong?
A lot more power coming from Song. Oh man, I think yes. Go. Yeah, I'm gonna say just say yeah.
Just give me that. Listen, we gave him the Ricky Simone light treatment with Cody Stamann. What about Ricky Simone? You think he can get past that type of wrestler?
Ooh, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a harder question right there.
Yeah. So are you gonna give me what, 50-50? Are you like 51%? Are you 49?
I'm leaning 51% no. But it's very, very close.
Okay. 51% no. Okay. So that's just telling me right now. This is what all I'm doing is I'm just gauging the sentiment right now and saying like, okay, if Ciryl Nurmagomedov truly, in your eyes, is this dude who can really come in and compete with these top 15 fighters, no problem. It's something to see. I don't know if I'm convinced quite yet, brother, just because the fight was so short. And like I said, we're over here foreshadowing a bunch. We'll talk about it in a bit. So a little bit of a kind of half-baked rankings review this weekend. But to be honest, AJ, there was only 2 ranked fighters, and they were the champions. So, I don't know what you want me to do there. All right, man. Let's move on into our fighter of the night, folks.
Right now, there is not a man on this planet that can stop me inside this octagon. The celebration is more work than the fight. Fighter of the night.
All right. New drop. Fighter of the night. AJ, what do you think, brother? What do you think about that?
I like that, man. Yeah. Old school radio style with you in the mix. I like that a lot, brother.
Come on, brother. And then we got, the beautiful voice of, I believe it was Well, I forgot, so can't give you any credit. Sorry, folks. But it was beautiful. Listen, man, most dangerous man in the octagon, brother. Maybe not most dangerous in the entire octagon, because Francis Ngannou was that man on Saturday night. But we both have a long list of fighters that we can go through to claim for our fighter of the night. And if you do not mind, AJ, I would actually like to go first, because this is how much my fighter impressed me. So let me do my thing for a second, brother. Okay, folks. If you recall, in the last couple of weeks, even dating back on over to last year, last season, if you want to call it, there was a fight that I was very excited about, and that was Raoni Barcelos, the dark horse in the bantamweight division, against Victor Henry. And I've been saying it's my sleeper. It's going to be a banger. Watch out for it, folks. I said it again on the pre-show last week. I said, hey, I have a different sleeper. I don't want to reuse my sleeper, even though it got used as a featured prelim. But hey, obviously I've talked about it. You guys need to check it out. Well, the fighter that was the biggest underdog on the card in Victor Henry ended up probably looking like he had the best UFC debut we've seen in quite some time by defeating Raoni Barcelos. Unanimous decision, man. He flowed on him. He stood toe-to-toe with one of the best strikers in the bantamweight division. First off, gave him his respect. He gave him some respect, but in terms of being in the cage, striking-wise, there was no respect. In terms of back-and-forth pace, it was ridiculous. In terms of drowning an opponent, weaponizing your pace, weaponizing your volume, and kind of pulling that Song Yadong versus Casey Kenny approach where, okay, maybe Raoni Barcelos has to sit down on his shots a little bit more. I can tag him up in those in-betweens. I don't got to hit you with full power, but I could touch and go. You know what I mean? You can go for that touch-and-go type style. That's what Victor Henry did. He was very experienced, man, and he landed the most amount of significant strikes that Raoni Barcelos has allowed in his UFC career with 181. It was incredible. This man showed poise, he showed experience, and his nickname, I believe, is the Mongoose. He said that one in Spanish. He's the Mongoose for a reason, man, because it's nonstop pace, nonstop action, flow fighter, switching stances, you know what I mean, just rolling with everything, shoulder checking everything, man. The man had supreme confidence, and you know, supreme confidence is something that I'd love to see from a supreme competitor like Victor Henry himself. Getting a win over Raoni Barcelos is it's underrated because at the end of the day, Raoni Barcelos, and I think you can agree with me on this one, AJ, is officially, he's like number 18 on Tapology. Unofficially, he's a top 10, top 15 fighter. We just don't got room to throw him in that mix, even though we know how good he is. So getting a win over that guy in a UFC debut, man, I just think it was the most impressive thing we've seen, especially because it was a unanimous decision win where you clearly saw that Barcelos was on the ropes, man. Victor Henry, you are my fighter of the night. I believed in you for the sleeper, brother, but I'll tell you what, I'm mad because I should have put some money on you. You came in at a plus 335 underdog, man, to beat Raoni Barcelos, who was a minus 450 favorite. Beautiful. Just beautiful, AJ. So that is my fighter of the night, man. I hope I didn't steal yours, but you got to admit, that's one of the best stories on the entire card. So intangible storylines, everything, brother. Give me who you got for fighter of the night.
Derick, there are so many fighters on this card where you could choose from. It was a very eventful night for you, man. But I agree with you, Derick. To show up like Victor Henry did, man, very impressive. One of the best debut performances we've seen. And for that exact reason, man, honestly, it doesn't happen often, folks. Yeah. But I had to make Victor Henry my fighter of the night as well. There we go, brother. It very rarely, I think this is the second time it's happened where we made the same fighter of the night. But this dude was so impressive, man. So impressive to take a short notice replacement fight like that, be the biggest underdog on the card, and never take a backward step. Dude, this dude showed up. And what I love best about him, man, first off, DC said it best. Victor Henry's a dog, an absolute dog in the fight game. This dude stays ready. He even said after, he's like, I stay in the gym, bro. I'm a martial artist. You know, fighting is fighting, martial arts. You got to stay in the gym, be ready so you don't have to get ready. I love it, man. This dude, he even said it himself, man. He's very conscious about, he said things like 37 or whatever, but he's like, I got a short run. I'm trying to go to the top, man. I know I got a shelf life. I'm here for some fun. This dude is action-packed performance, man. Like I said, never taking a backward step. All the intangibles were there. And the fact that, honestly, when I saw that Raoni Barcelos wasn't top 15, I was like, really? Like, this is kind of, I feel like this dude needs to be at least top 15. Yeah. This is somewhere in the number 12 range. But, you know, at the end of the day, that's not the case. But the talent level is definitely there. Victor Henry showed up. Super impressive performance. You could go on and on about what this dude did in a great fight. And the fact that he bloodied up Raoni Barcelos and still stood there toe-to-toe in the phone booth when Barcelos was sitting down on his shots. wow, man, very impressive fight, very impressive. And like you said, Derick, one of the best or most impressive debuts we've seen.
Yeah.
This dude has a very bright future in Victor Henry. That's why I made him my fighter of the night. Woo, it was a great time, man. That was very impressive for Victor Henry.
Brother, WOW, period. That's the performance, man. Like, I don't know what else to say on it, and it's unfortunate because that fight did not earn a performance bonus, but it deserved it, absolutely. And if you don't get 50K, brother, I hope that our acknowledgement of fighter of the night works for you. I hope that does a little bit something to ease your spirits. But, man, that was just so impressive. So impressive. So, all right, man. Before we move on to the main card, once again, you know I got to do it. Drop a like, folks. Subscribe. Hit us up at Bloody Water Podcast on Instagram and Bloody Water Pod on Twitter. BloodyWaterPodcast.com is the home, is the hub. And go head over to get some merch, man. Use code BWP10 for 10% off. We just updated our storefront, our online storefront. So I got some new designs in there. I'm rocking right now the original OG Bloody Water Podcast hoodie, the first one that we put up. But we got a couple chest patches. We got the big logo. We got mugs. We got everything that you need, man. I don't know what more you need to say. But like I said, just remember, use code BWP10 for 10% off all purchases at checkout. You dig. AJ, brother. One more thing before we move on, man. Listen, when you listen to your podcast and all that good stuff, man, you're doing your thing. You over there, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Pods, whatever, man. The rating feature, it's a difficult thing, right? You know what I mean? Some people, they can't find it. It's a tough thing to navigate and negotiate sometimes. But I'm just saying, brother, next time that you taking a look or whatever, man, even on other podcasts that you listen to, I don't know whether it's some Joe Rogan or whether it's some, Human Brain, whatever the case may be, man, just take a look at that, rate them if you're feeling good, because that's what we expecting from the people who are listening at home. For all of you good folks, I didn't do too hot, but if you bet on AJ's picks, you made you some bread. I mean, you was really rolling this weekend, man, to show a little bit of appreciation. Like I said, just do the rating stuff. Do you agree with me, AJ, man? It's not the most difficult thing. I can understand the trials and tribulations, but, it's possible. What do you think?
It's super possible. It's free. It helps us out, man. I got a marketing homie. Shout out Lydia, and she was all about. She told me all about the SEO, that search engine optimization. You have no idea how much it actually helps us, folks. If you just leave a rating, leave a comment, even a bad comment. You think I'm a dumbass? Just leave that shit right there. I love it either way. I appreciate it. The picks are making you money though, so you were doing good things over here. Just share it with your friends. Leave that little bit of rating. It helps us out dramatically, man. You have no idea, and we appreciate it tenfold over here.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, folks, you got to have a little bit of a character of self-esteem, confidence. You have to have the can't hurt me confidence to be like, hey, leave a bad comment. Tell me I'm a dumbass. I don't care. Just give me the comment. That's all I need. You know what I'm saying? So you know how we dig around here. All right, AJ, brother, let's hit some main card. Let's break down these fights. And I got another drop, so tune in, folks.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
All right, brother, that's us. And that was the fine voice of the Count right there. Former champ, Michael Bisping, man. Have you seen the replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine. You already dig what time it is, because in this main event, or this first matchup for the main card, man, that's what was happening, man. Trevin Giles, his head was bouncing around like a pinball machine, man. It was unfortunate, but this was a big night for UFC debutees, whatever you want to call them. And the fighter out of Ecuador, Michael Morales, he just proved again, man, he has explosive power in his hands. Explosive power. But this was one of those fights as well where you wanted to see more. You know what I mean? I get it. You got the knockout. And I knew if you were going to win, that was the way for you to win. Didn't think he'd be able to get it done on a Trevin Giles, man, who, let's be honest, I think prior to this fight, Giles had only been stopped like in one other fight. But neither here nor there. Morales got the job done. What impressed you about this performance, given that it was so short, AJ?
Man, even though it was short, what was most impressive to me was that Morales was losing the majority of that fight and still came back and get the KO win, man. The mental fortitude it took to not give up on yourself and to actually stay in the fight. This was a very, very fun fight. Like I said, for the 4 minutes that it lasted. Morales, he very fun. He looks like a brawler, but this dude can get it done in multiple ways. So I think that's what you're talking about when we're saying it was lacking. We wanted a little bit more, because Morales is very, very technical. Same thing with Giles. Very technical fighters. It was just a swing fun of a night, man. It was a great fight to actually see. As the first one, I can see why they made it. But what I like most about Morales too, in his shots, he stays long, man. He'll hit you at the end of his punches. He's not pulling anything. He's going for the head. Amazing fight, man. Very, very fun. A little fast, but they get the payday regardless, and it was a good time to watch, especially for the opening night.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that it did serve well as the opening fight for the main card, man. But when we look at the numbers, it is kind of like it tells a little bit of a different story, just because Michael Morales, 26 of 42 strikes, 61% significant strike percentage. Trevin Giles just 8 of 15. So we already know that's kind of the name of the game, though, when we're talking about a Trevin Giles, is that it's power, it's big bombs that he's throwing at you. But is it surprising to see that Morales, just the output was just way higher than Trevin Giles? Even though Giles was the one that was trying to walk down Morales, it almost seemed like I don't know what the reach discrepancy was in this fight, but it almost seemed like he was just trying to chase after him. Like he couldn't quite find that range, So what do you think about that?
Yeah, he really was. Trevin Giles was really trying to pressure down, get on the inside, because I do think there was a reach discrepancy. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but man, Morales, I think what showed right there is this dude was just staying busy, and when the shots landed hard.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that's the name of the game sometimes, right? What does it mean to you that Michael Morales has now won 10 of his 13 victories via knockout? Like, what does that mean to you? And in terms of predicting success in the UFC, sometimes we love that because we're like, okay, we know what you can do. We know you got those bombs in your hands. But I think he might have like 2 submission wins, 1 decision win, something like that. But does it bode well given, just the fact that he's such a young prospect in terms of the UFC, man? You're going to have to get it done other ways too. It's almost like you want to see somebody come in with those 10 knockouts, but also with like 7 decisions, you know what I mean? And it's tough because as in terms of experience, man, he's only now 13-0, undefeated. I mean, what more can he ask for? But even an Ilia Topuria or, a Movsar Evloev, their undefeated records are just a little more like, okay, you get it. You don't just knock people out. Like, you're decisioning these people. You're getting it done over the course of 15 minutes. What do you make of that?
I think it bodes well because as we've seen in like the regional divisions and coming up on the way, you need to be the guy that's kind of dominating. But if we take, for instance, a fighter like Michel Pereira, he was doing the same thing, man, knockouts on knockouts on knockouts. And then once he starts kind of hitting that top tier athletic performance that the UFC has, then he's kind of started getting a little bit longer of fights. And we'll talk about him a little bit later, but I think it's the same thing for Morales in this one. The fact that he's doing so well, killing it, that we're going to need to see a little bit more from him. But if you watched his Dana White Contender Series debut, he had a scrap, man. He had a dogfight that made him go to the 3 rounds. And sure, it was only 3, it was 15 minutes, not the 25 like we'll see in the championships. But either way, he stayed true the entire time. He has good wrestling. He has good ground game. He can do those things. It's just he's knocking people out. So I kind of like him, man. I think it bodes well for him. I think he's going to do good in the future. We need to see him up against stiffer competition here in the beginning. And even that comment right there, man, Trevin Giles is stiff competition. So if we need to see something more from Morales, I think it's going to be a lot of fun watching this dude come up in the UFC and grow as a fighter as he's going to, man. What do you think?
No, I absolutely agree with you. Trevin Giles is a incredible piece of competition right there. And to get that man in your UFC debut is absolutely by no means an easy task. However, the one caveat, like I said, Giles, he did drop down to welterweight for the first time in his career in this fight. So had a little bit of an advantage right there. Just because, I don't know, maybe the weight cut affected him. I don't want to make excuses. He lost. That's just what it is. Last question that I have for you. What do you think about the prospect of Michael Morales putting on for the country of Ecuador? Previously, Chito Vera was really the only guy that you really saw, like, proudly being like, yeah, Viva Ecuador, all that good stuff, man. But for Michael Morales, he was representing Mexico and Ecuador, which was interesting, man. So shout out to Latin America right there. But I just wonder, are we going to get another great hope for the country of Ecuador? Do you think this man could be that hope?
Yeah, man, I think so. I think, and I like that he's staying proud, man. I went down and visited Ecuador for a month, man, back in college, and those dudes are proud people, just like any other Latin American, Mexican, Spanish, anybody from another country that comes in, you can tell they got a lot of pride, and I like that Morales is the next one coming up for Ecuador. There's some scrappers down there, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So big win for Michael Morales, man. We can move on to the next one, but not to be understated. Very, very big win. Okay, AJ. Like I said, man, this is one I actually had a couple of buddies of mine that were like, hey, man, can I ask you why you're betting against Saeed? And I was all like, I had this whole lengthy paragraph that I put out for all the reasons why Cody Stamann can win this fight. And what's terrible about it, doing something like that, is when you see the result and Saeed Nurmagomedov basically defies all of that logic and just submits Cody Stamann in less than a minute. You know what I mean? And what's crazy is when we look at the numbers right here, man, I mean, you could clearly see what the game plan was. For Cody Stamann, 1 of 4 significant strikes, meaning I'm going to throw maybe one shot, try to get in on that single, get in on that double, and I'm going to try to get you to the ground. Nurmagomedov throwing counter shots, spinning, body kicks, spinning back fists, the regular Saeed Nurmagomedov game plan that we saw, right? When we're talking about takedowns, right? I mean, neither of these guys technically landed a takedown, even though, I mean, I would call Saeed Nurmagomedov. He landed that Uchimata that he landed on Cody Stamann was beautiful, folks. And if you don't know what an Uchimata is sitting at home, it's a traditional judo throw that you use a lot in wrestling, you use a lot in jiu-jitsu. And that's the thing that kind of stood out to me a little bit. It was like the wrestling of Saeed Nurmagomedov was the big question mark, right? But we didn't really see the wrestling. We really saw more of his grappling capabilities, because it's funny, AJ. I actually just in jiu-jitsu a couple days ago in class, man, one of the things we were learning is when somebody like a good wrestler gets a good single leg on you, right? Their head is probably going to be kind of like in this area. You're going to push it onto the outside, and then you're going to grab your arm, slide in for the guillotine, boom. Well, that's what Saeed Nurmagomedov did to Cody Stamann. And now that I think about it in hindsight, I'm like, oh man, this is like this makes the most sense. You have a very pressure-heavy wrestler who's is going to be looking for those takedowns. Why don't, instead of working the kickboxing countering, I work my grappling countering? And now it's so clear. It's I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. That's how I'm feeling right now, brother. Because in all honesty, man, like let's be real. That's the best way you could beat a Cody Stamann. You're gonna try to fight fire with fire, or are you gonna use his momentum against him, Uchimata him, get the guillotine, and call it a day? I don't know. I'm very impressed by this Saeed Nurmagomedov performance. Clearly, as you can tell, I just didn't expect for someone to do it against a Cody Stamann, who has been submitted a couple times, never been knocked out. So that's what I was banking on. But what do you make of all of this, man? Like, are you as impressed as I am in this matchup?
Man, very impressed. It was a very fast fight. I forget how long, don't even know if it made it past a minute, but being dry, being in there, having to get that, and he had that front choke in deep, and that guillotine was deep. He even was able to put his other hand on the back of Stamann's head, so that way he can actually get a real serious squeeze on early in the fight when they're both strong. Like I said, not too sweaty, so it's a little harder to slip out. Very impressive from Saeed Nurmagomedov, man. And I had literally there wasn't too much other notes you could really take, but I had the same thing. WOW period. Wow, man. Very quick for Nurmagomedov. He came out hot. Stamann came out with the pressure. Perfect game plan. Like you said, Derick pushed that head to the side, get that choke in. Very fast. I think they said it was the third fastest submission in the bantamweight, featherweight. Forget what weight class it is, but either way, third fastest submission in the weight class. Man, Nurmagomedov set it up and sunk it deep. Very impressive, very fast, and I still like that he was able to show a little bit of striking there too. Man, came out hot. I like this one a lot, man. It was a good fight, even though it was short.
Yeah, brother. So what it looks like is that this fight got finished in 47 seconds. So, you know what I mean? What more do you want? But that's the thing. When we're looking at a Saeed Nurmagomedov, man, let's just take a look at his record real fast once again, man. You have, in his last couple of fights, Cody Stamann, first round victory under a minute, guillotine choke. First round victory against Mark Striegel back in 2020, right? He lost a decision to Raoni Barcelos, but first round KO for Ricardo Ramos. I mean, obviously in these other fights, you got some decisions, but, it's just like in the UFC, he's just finishing all of these people, and that's not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination, but that's this question mark that you still have on him. Okay, that's what I was banking on. I was like, okay, if Cody Stamann can make this a dogfight and make this go 15 minutes, I mean, look at what Raoni Barcelos did to him. Obviously, Cody Stamann's not nearly as good of a striker as Raoni Barcelos, but nonetheless. But when you don't even allow it to become a fight, that's what you want. That's like Francis Ngannou right there, right? It's like we're not even going to see what 15 minutes looks like because we're just going to smash you, except this weekend, but neither here nor there. All right, AJ, the question that I have on the flip side on this one, man, because we already talked about how impressive it was for Nurmagomedov. Cody Stamann, that's 3 in a row, brother. That's 3 in a row. Those are 3 kind of rough losses right there. Obviously the one against the Machine, Merab, that wasn't as bad. The one against Ricardo Lamas, I think that was short notice. If I even recall that correctly, if he did fight Ricardo Lamas, let me just take a look real fast. Let's see what we got for the Spartan. It was Jimmy Rivera. Oh, where did I get that other name from? Yeah, so the fight against Jimmy Rivera, Merab, this is 3 losses in a row. His last win was against Brian Kelleher in 2020, man, and that's not necessarily the biggest name that you want on your resume for for that to be the case. So what do we do with the Cody Stamann here? He was actually putting a lot of pressure on himself, saying that this could have been his last fight on his contract for the UFC. He doesn't know if he will get renewed with the promotion. But do you think Cody Stamann still has a slot in the UFC, or do you think that this skid has just been a little bit too rough to overcome?
It's a real rough skid, for Cody Stamann going forward, man. 3 losses, and especially this one with how quick it was, you could tell he was very devastated once he did tap. He was almost tapping basically instantly, so you can see that he was very regretful once the choke let go and he went back to his corner. What do we do with him? I still think he's a very talented fighter. And if this fight would have gone a little longer, then we would have been able to see that. What I like most about a Cody Stamann is he's able to test the grit of the other fighters. And if this fight would have went a little bit longer, I think we would have been able to see that grit being tested of Said Nurmagomedov. And I think that's the best part about Cody Stamann's game, man. The fact that he can wrestle, he can keep that pressure going the entire time. Sure, he got caught up in this quick choke, but I don't think it's necessarily a cut kind of an issue for him. He still has a lot of power, a lot of praise going forward, and he's a dog. So, I don't think they could really necessarily get rid of him. At least I hope not. But 3-fight losing streak does kind of not bode the best for a Cody Stamann going in the future. I do think he's still in that top 15, top 20 rank. But, there's a lot of up-and-comers, so I think he's going to have a hell of a fight in his next one to really get one back. Hopefully they don't cut him because he's a very good talent, though, Derick. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I hope that they keep him around because I think he definitely has a spot, even if it's a quote-unquote gatekeeper spot, a gatekeeper to the top 15, a gatekeeper to the top 20. Even if it's that spot, I do think he definitely deserves to stick around because, honestly, dude, he's still young in his career. He's 32. He's just reaching the prime of his career. This is a dude who you want to keep around to be able to test these other fighters. And like I said, aside from Ricky Simone and a Merab Dvalishvili, he's arguably, top 3, third best wrestler in the division. I don't know what else to say about that one. Victor Henry might have some arguments on that one because Victor Henry says that he's the best wrestler, but neither here nor there. All right, AJ. So let's move on to this next matchup right here. Michel Pereira. We already talked about it. He gets the UD win against Andre Fialho. AJ, man, one thing that I noted on the pre-fight show is that Michel Pereira needs to be Michel Pereira if he wants to win. He has to have the goofiness. He has to have the capoeira. He has to have the explosive athleticness, doing backflips, rolling thunders. So, in my opinion, I think that it is a little bit of a detriment to his game, just a little bit, just because of the energy consumption. Because like I said, it's something that he's definitely building on, definitely getting better at. But do you honestly think, I want an honest assessment here, do you think Michel Pereira, if somehow, some way his coaches were like, stop all the flashiness, no more, we do none of it, stick only fundamentals, would he be winning these fights? Or do you think that is an integral part of his game, that flashiness?
I honestly think he'd be doing a little bit better, man. I think he'd be doing a little bit better, staying a little bit more technical, getting the fights to finish. One of the biggest problems, and it's a hard double-edged sword, because would he be as memorable? No, not necessarily, but he'd be getting more finishes, so we'd be seeing more and more of him. What I didn't like about the flashiness in this aspect, he'd hurt Fialho and then throw something flashy, throw in a flying knee, and then Fialho was able to grab him up, keep him by the cage, and recover it. Happened multiple times in the fight where Pereira would hurt Fialho and then throw something flashy, throw that rolling thunder like he likes, and then Fialho is able to recover for the next 2 minutes, get back in the fight, and stay in the fight. Yeah. So I think if Pereira was able to be a little bit more technical, be a little bit more precise, literally leave all that stuff in the past, I think he'd have a higher finishing rate. But would he be as memorable and would he be as fun of a fighter? Not necessarily. So I think there's a double-edged sword. You're really fighting on that one. Which way are you leaning, Derick?
Well, you know what? That's important that you just noted that, because this is something that we always talk about. This isn't just the fight game. This is also the entertainment business. And Michel Pereira checks both boxes, right? You're not only on a win streak. You're not only beating stiff competition. You're doing it in impressive fashion. You're making it flashy. And people want to tune into a Michel Pereira fight. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's in the weigh-ins when he hits a backflip and then does the little jump-ups. I don't even know what you call them. You know what I'm talking about, man. The kind of b-boy type stuff, right? Whether it's that, whether it's the in-cage stuff, man, it doesn't matter. I don't know if I didn't get to see the walkout. I don't know if he was dancing on his way to the cage. I hope he was. But, that was the classic one that he got really kind of, Dana White was very feeling away about it, because I think he lost the fight or something and came out dancing, doing the whole nine, So you always want to tune into a Michel Pereira fight. So I do think it's important. But I also do believe that you have to be you inside that cage, man. You can't, sit there and be like, all right, I'm going to take away who I am, and I'm going to be this version of a fighter. You have to be loose. You have to be having fun. That's what you said, right? The corner said, let's have some fun. And then Michel Paeta goes and does whatever he does, man. So as long as you're having fun and you winning, it's hard to really have any type of critique. So it was a great performance by Michel Paeta. We'll talk matchmaking in one moment, man. But I guess the question that I have here, because this is just rinse, wash, repeat for Paeta, he just keeps racking up these dubs. Andre Fialho, what type of place do you think he has in this welterweight division, man? Because that walk forward style, that pressure, I mean, not too many people are going to be able to bode very well with that, going to be able to handle that very well. And I think against someone a little less experienced than Michel Paeta, Fialho probably could have notched a beautiful knockout in that UFC debut. So what do you think the future of Andre Fialho is?
Man, I think he has a pretty bright future going forward, man. To do what he did, survive the kind of fight he did against Pereira, Fialho, I had him even going into the third, man. This is a very fun fight. Fialho has serious power. Walking forward, if you're not able to get out of the way, you're going to crumble from that pressure that Fialho has. I think this dude has a lot of potential going in the welterweight division. I'm pretty sure they're fighting in welterweight. Yeah. But either way, whatever division it is, this dude has some serious power, and he's been like needing to come into the UFC for quite a long time. And I think it's about time that he's here. Even though he didn't necessarily get the win, I think he has a lot of potential coming forward for him.
Well, I think that he didn't get the win on paper, but he got a win in the eyes of the fans, where they're like, oh, okay, you sticking around with this dude? I mean, let's look at it, brother. He loses to Michel Paeta, but the last 4 first-round knockouts, and that was one of the questions that I had, is do you think maybe that he's like, okay, I touch all these other guys and they go down. How come Michel Paeta isn't going down? Do you think that was kind of part of the problem? Because for me, that's a little bit what I saw of like, okay, first off, give some credit. Paeta has an incredible chin. I mean, let's give some credit. But you're looking at it, man. He knocks out a James Vick, who's kind of knockout prone, so I guess that isn't big. The big one that stood out to me is Stefan Sekulic, man. This is former UFC veteran right here, man. To knock the man out, that's the one I told you where he grabbed the single and dude just dropped him with the elbow and just, little stuff like that, man. That's what I'm talking about. So it's like when you have that touch of death, it can come as a detriment sometimes, because when you land and you're like, wait, you're supposed to go down. And they're like, no, I'm not going to, brother. This is the UFC. I don't know what you thought. This ain't UAE Warriors, you know what I'm saying? No disrespect, but this is the big show. Do you think that that's just going to be a learning lesson right there, man? Probably come back bigger, better, stronger, all that good stuff. But that was the learning lesson that he probably needed to take, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%, man, 100%. There's nothing more demoralizing when you hit a man with all you got and he just literally staring right back at you looking like, what? I was supposed to do something? Yeah. Didn't do nothing. Yeah, very impressive. And I think it just showed that Pereira has a nice chin on him. And he's growing as a fighter. But Fialho was there, man. Fialho was there to fight, never taking a backward step, gained a lot of respect out there in the fans' eyes.
Absolutely, brother. And it's just funny. I've been watching a lot of Dragon Ball Z recently, man. It just reminds me of like when it's like Krillin or Trunks trying to fight like Perfect Cell, and Cell is just standing there and dude is just eating the shot. So, everything on the chin, just like, nah, brother, nothing, sorry. Yeah, but learn a lesson, but a big win for Michel Paeta. Now, AJ, let's talk about it, brother. Listen, man, and new Deiveson Figueiredo, he got the job done. Deuce de Guerra was absolutely no joke, and he made good on all the promises. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them, right? He said he was going to take off Brandon Moreno's head and give it to Henry Cejudo for being a traitor. Didn't quite do that one. He dropped him a couple times, man, but you walked home with a unanimous decision victory. But what's most important is that he has gold around his waist once again. Now, we need to start this conversation off, AJ, and this is going to be a preview to the matchmaking, but we have to start this off with Brandon Moreno finished Deiveson Figueiredo in the second fight in dramatic fashion. He submitted the man. He made you say uncle, right? Gives you an immediate rematch after. Now, let's be honest about it. If Alexandre Pantoja wasn't injured, I do think that Pantoja would have got the nod instead of Figueiredo because of how definitive Moreno beat him. Now we have a close fight, right? You were saying when the mics were cold that, hey, man, this was a really, really close fight. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, on verdict, they actually had Moreno winning the fight by a very, very slim margin. But what's important about this is that this was back and forth. You know what I mean? This was a decision victory. Figueiredo gets the nod. Okay, you didn't even finish Moreno. You better give this man a rematch. If he does not give this man a rematch, this is going to go in the history books of like just some of the most, I guess, just not fair, right? This is kind of, not the same, but kind of like Francis Ngannou being like, sorry, Stipe, you don't get no rematch. You know, just like, oh, but he gave you the rematch after beating the brakes off of you for 5 rounds. You know what I mean? I don't know, brother. What do you make of this? Do you think this is a must-have territory of a 4th fight, a quadrilogy? Do you think that is a must-happen type event?
Oh yeah, 100%, man. I had this one even going into the 5th. I had Moreno winning on my card, but I could easily see how Figgy won this fight too, man. Very impressive fight, and I like the fact that Figueiredo actually called for the 4th, called for the rematch in Mexico too. He said, "I'm gonna beat you up in your hometown. It'll be a lot of fun." I really like that Figueiredo was willing to do that again. I hope the UFC follows through with that, makes that 4th fight, because it really is basically one apiece since there was that draw. So I feel like the 4th fight needs to happen, man. And this was close. This was a very, very close fight. Figueiredo was stealing a couple rounds with the takedowns and with the power that he had. Moreno was staying busy. Hands were quick, also looking powerful, doing a little bit of taunting. He was doing this weird stuff where his elbows were in, hands were out, chin was up, talking shit like Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
It was fun, man. It was a really good fight. And I think if they run this one back, it's going to be even more fun the next time.
And, I mean, we both predicted it, but I think it was the easiest one to call fight of the night, obviously, right? You know, come on. But the big thing on this one, brother, is that, listen, the second fight, the story of it, the reason why I thought that this was going to be definitive for Moreno is because Moreno was able to control the center of the cage, no problem, make Figueiredo swing big, miss big, all that. That didn't happen this fight. Figgy said, nah, brother, don't forget, I got the power. I'm still in the center of the cage. Not only that, though, he was a much more patient fighter. This wasn't the crazy Figgy that just throws big bombs and, you know what I mean, just relies on kind of like a Ngannou, pre-Ngannou at a flyweight, man, you know, where he's just like, I just have to hit you with the big shot. This was a patient Figueiredo. He was kind of waiting for Moreno to start the engagement so then he can counter, land the big shot. And, man, when he's throwing that right cross, man, he's throwing it with everything that he has. Like, he's throwing it all the way across, right? So this was just a very, very impressive bounce back win for Deiveson Figueiredo, and it went to show that he truly was a champion. This wasn't a one-off type dude who was able to starch these dudes until he gets to the pinnacle of the division, even though, like I said, Joseph Benavidez, man, one of the best to do it. He took out the legend. He did all that good stuff, man. But to become a 2-time champion in the flyweight division definitely gives his career a lot more credibility. And even though he plays heel, AJ, and I don't even know if he's a really good heel, but he plays heel nonetheless, I do think that I'm stumbling on my words here, but this is kind of what the sentiment that I want to say here, AJ. I think historically, these two are going to be some of the most known flyweights in the history of the division, right? Obviously, you have your triple C, you know, quadruple C, whatever you want to call him, Henry Cejudo, you feel me? You got that dude who was one of the best to do it. You got Mighty Mouse, you got all that stuff, man. But heavyweights historically in boxing and UFC have had trilogy matches, have had these two fighters who have basically like held up the division, right? Not in a bad way, in a good way, like held it up in a good way, right? This takes me back to just like Ali Frazier type stuff right here, man, but in the flyweight division. So I think that this bodes incredibly well for the men's flyweight division in the UFC, which was on the brink of getting, you know, demolished a couple years ago, let's not forget. So I just think that this is so impressive. This is going to be a historical moment. Do you see this the same way that I'm seeing it? Like, are you seeing like how we could look back in 5-10 years and like, oh, you remember the Moreno Figueiredo trilogy, quadrilogy, whatever, like, you know, something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, Derick, I agree with you 100%. If you heard the fans in there that were so supportive of Moreno, and even to the same aspect, they were kind of booing Figueiredo, but that's still keeping eyes on him. I think a lot of the people that have been watching fights, the new casuals, the new people that are coming into the sport, I think these are going to be the fights that they remember the most, man. You know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you know, the longtime fans, you know, we remember the Machitas and the John Jones and all this kind of stuff. These guys are going to be the face of the UFC coming forward, man. These fights are going to be remembered for a long time. And the fact that it has that track record of, you know, 4 fights down the road, I think these are what people are really going to remember, man. Seeing the fact that they're going back and forth, changing the title back and forth, having the wars, literally, like, it's so razor thin that you can get the conversation started that either one of these dudes wins one way or the other. I think that's really what's going to start making the division and kind of bringing it back, keeping these people in the minds of the fans. I think these guys are here for a long time, man. I'm excited for the fact that this is something that we're going to be seeing, in the next year, 2 years. We might even see 5, 6 fights between these guys. Who knows? I don't think that's the case, but it could happen that way. And if it was written like a comic book, it would, because these dudes are killers in the cage, and they're there for a while, man. It's going to be a long time till we see a new face in the division.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's look at it, man. For Deiveson Figueiredo, I mean, look at this, man. 3 fights against Brandon Moreno, but prior to that, I mean, finishes Perez, finishes Benavidez twice, finishes Tim Elliott, finishes Pantoja, or he doesn't finish. He gets the nod against Pantoja. I mean, John Moraga, Joseph Morales. I mean, come on, brother. It's just, you go down the list. You go down the list. It's incredible, man. It's. I mean, come on, So. I don't know, brother. I agree with you. We can go a lot of fights on this one, man. But at the end of the day, Deuce Tigueira is back. He is the champion. And my last question before we move on to the main event here is, Brandon Moreno a one-off champion, or will he regain his title?
No, I think he regains his title, man. I don't think it's a one-off. I think it's going to be a very close fight, because you're right, Deuce Tigueira is for real. But I had Moreno landing more of the power in the earlier rounds, but then the volume started to take over for Moreno, where Figueiredo started to land a little bit more power, stealing that third round with that bomb of a right hand. I do think Moreno will be back, especially if they fight in Mexico. You get that little pride rock, and you get the crowd going even more for him. It was like a mini Mexico in Southern California, but if they fight in actual Mexico, it is going to be wild.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. And I'm just taking a look at the numbers right here, man. So in the first round, Figueiredo outlanded Moreno 15-10. In the second round, Moreno outlanded Figgy 28-19. Round 3, 26-19 for Moreno. Round 4, 20-15 for Moreno. And round 5, 21-18 for Moreno. So definitely volume was in favor for Brandon Moreno. But when it comes to power, we did have 3 knockdowns for Deiveson Figueiredo. So let me see what rounds these knockdowns came in. 2 knockdowns in round 3 and 1 in round 5. So, I mean, that's definitely what steals around. That's what wins a fight for you. At the end of the day, I think this is, let me just do this real fast. Let's go to MMA decisions, folks. And let's see. For Figueiredo versus Gane, because you're saying it's a little contested, brother. No, looks like it's pretty heavily in favor of Deiveson Figueiredo here, man. We have a couple people for Moreno, but it looks like the people have spoken and the people have noted that 48-47 in favor of Figueiredo. I mean, that's how close it was, though, man. That's not no 50-47. I think that's what the card read, like 50-47 or whatever, folks. And if you don't know about this website, MMADecisions.com, you can go find that out. You can see all the basically scorecards for the decisions and all that good stuff, man. So, AJ, let's move back. We answered a lot of big questions here, man, but I just think this is crazy. I did not expect and knew, but it looks like the prophecy of Brandon Royval is starting to come to reality when he said, hey, man, I think that there's going to be a lot of turnover in the flyweight division. This is the start. Figueiredo is now the champion once again. Okay, AJ. So I said the scariest man alive is Francis Ngannou. I said last week the baddest man on the planet. I think it's the Predator. I think it's Francis Ngannou. Love the storyline, love the build-up, but we know hype when we see it. We know a narrative when we see it, and we know when the UFC is trying to push and market a fight. And this is what that was. You can't blame anybody for that, AJ. But let's be honest here. From round 1 to round 5, there was maybe one moment in the fight where I was a little worried for Francis Ngannou. And this was, I think, maybe beginning of round 2, whatnot. Just kind of watching the fight and seeing, like, okay, Ngannou's getting a little flat-footed, looking a little tired. And it doesn't seem like the power is working against a Ciryl Gane. However, Gane ran into the same problem that Stipe did, where those openings, you don't really have them against Ngannou. Like, you could try to land the big shot, but the last thing you want to do is engage in the firefight against Ngannou. So what do? You say, okay, well, I'm going to push you up against the cage, or I'm going to, do this, or I'm going to do that, or whatever the case may be. But it didn't really work against Ngannou. And folks who are watching the visual, I do apologize because I misspelled the champion's name. There's not 2 G's in his last name, it's only 1, so I apologize about that. Got to give respect to the champ, which I feel like nobody's been giving him respect, so this is why, you know what I'm saying? But ultimately, right, was there any point in this fight where you really thought, okay, Ciryl Gane is about to take over? Like, was there any point in that fight?
Man, I was real worried at the beginning of round 2. The first round was fun, yeah. But even my second note is Ngannou looked tired in the second, man. He was looking real tired, a little flat-footed, breathing heavy, open mouth breathing too, so he didn't look that good. And honestly, his confidence in his eyes weren't really there like we've seen. The Predator has this look when he's fighting, he's in a scrap. This one, he was kind of looking a little bit back, a little bit taken back. I was honestly a little bit worried because it was very much a Ciryl Gane fight through the first and the second.
Yeah.
Very touch and go, very, point oriented. Ngannou was never able to land that big power that we were expecting to. So I thought with each moment passing by, it was looking better and better for Ciryl Gane, man. I was a little worried, I'm not going to lie to you, Derick, but thankfully it was able to pull out in the way we were predicting. And it was crazy because from third round on, that's where Ngannou really started to show up, man. It had an amazing third round, steals it with the points on the takedowns. Very impressive from the third round on. But honestly, that first round 1 and round 2, I was a little nervous, man. I was getting a little bit worried. I was figuring this was going to be an interesting one going in. Hopefully it doesn't go to decision, but even if it does, we'll see, because it was very much a Ciryl Gane fight, point style in the beginning. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you to a degree, right? I like I said, I was just never really worried. Like, for a split second, I said the only thing that could beat Ngannou is his own cardio. That's the only thing that could beat him. The punches of Ciryl Gane, though. Like, have we ever seen Ngannou hurt? Never.
No.
Never, really. I've seen him get, like, in the beginning of his career, get, like, put off balance, rocked a little bit by a jab or something like that. But you've never really seen him, like, oh, my God, he's hurt, right? And that's what I'm saying. None of these fighters, even a Ciryl Gane, was really able to do that to him. But I do agree. I was like, why is he fighting Gane's fight? Like, Ngannou needs to walk forward the whole time. But when he decided, I think this could be the little bit of experience that he's had with Gane, though, already feeling his movement and saying, okay, I know this is going to be a little bit of a longer fight. I'm going to try to get him out of there. But if I can't get him out of there, we're going to be a little more well-rounded. So when you see Francis Ngannou catch Ciryl Gane's kick, something that a lot of fighters can't do, right? And just basically power blast this man, flip him onto his head. I mean, from that point on, I said, okay, you don't want a Francis Ngannou on top of you. And what's incredible is because there was one exchange in this fight, AJ, where Ciryl Gane actually went for some type of heel hook, right? But what do the commentators say? Look at Ciryl Gane sitting back for the heel hook. No. That's not what happened, right? Because they're saying that basically, like, Ciryl Gane went for the heel hook and then ended up getting reversed. That's not what happened. Actually, Francis Ngannou showed off a little bit of his jiu-jitsu, man. He hit Ciryl Gane with a scissor sweep, reversed the position on the man, and then Ciryl Gane said, okay, well, I'm in this spot. Let me then sit back and try to go for this heel hook, right? So I'm like, okay, listen, man, you got to give Francis Ngannou some credit right there for the jiu-jitsu chops, man, for the ability to reverse positions. And I'll tell you what, like a monster like Francis Ngannou, I'm telling you, him knowing how to do jiu-jitsu legitimately, man, there's some techniques that just will not work against him. And you saw Ciryl Gane try to lock up a Kimura against Ngannou, and Ngannou didn't even look worried. He was just like, with his big ass arm, just sitting there. He was like, okay, let me put this arm down. Like, you're not. And there's times too where like I'll have a dude against me who I just know I'm a little bit bigger than. You know what I mean? I know that I'm a little stronger, trying to get that arm bar, and you're looking at it and you're like, you're not grabbing that arm, though. I'm not letting you fully extend my arm. It's not going to happen. You just sometimes power does outweigh technical proficiency. Unfortunately, that is the reality of nature. And Francis Ngannou coming in at 257, even though he wasn't at his biggest, he had 10 pounds. And you'd imagine come fight night, he had more than that probably on Ciryl Gane. So I just think that this was a very, very well-rounded, impressive performance by Francis Ngannou. But I wanted to ask you, what did we learn about Ciryl Gane in this fight?
Man, we learned that this dude, he's the real deal, and I genuinely believe he's the future of the division coming forward. He's only 11 fights in. This dude is young, man. 11 fights, and he's already fought for the title. He was interim champion, even if that's debated whether he should have been there or not. Regardless, this dude's at the pinnacle of the sport, and he's going to be here for a long time. I think this is one of those fights that, sure, it was an L, but it's more of a lesson than a loss, and I think he's going to take very serious thought into how he approaches his next fight, because everybody knows that the attacks, the fluid style, the point style that he likes to fight, that's there, and that's very dangerous. But imagine if this dude could also have the ground game, have the grappling, have the wrestling, have that top pressure. If he would have done better, because he did get that last takedown in the 5th round against Francis Ngannou, but Ngannou saw the opportunity to present himself, and like you said, hit him with that scissor sweep, got on top. Imagine if Ciryl Gane knew what was going on, didn't do that, ended up tapping out the champ. Man, that'd be crazy, and I do think that's kind of where the fighting style of Gane needs to go, man. We learned he's amazing on the feet. He knows how to switch it up, whether he's just tapping you, keeping you busy, scoring those points, or actually driving in and hurting you with those kicks, with those punches. But now if we can see him evolve into a full, well-rounded mixed martial artist, this dude's going to be around for a very long time. Like I said, man, young in the game, only 11 fights in. This dude has a lot of potential to be going for a very long time in the UFC. I do think he will see champ eventually, but I mean, the Predator is unmatched right now, man. Francis Ngannou showing up, showing out, and actually doing the biggest kind of performance we've ever seen him have, man, with the full mix of everything, whether he's dumped people on takedowns, like you said, ignoring the Kimura, or even just hitting sweeps, hitting the turnarounds, getting on top, showing that he's very, very smart. I think with that aspect of that fight that he just had against Ciryl Gane's going to take that, learn from it, and we're going to see something incredible from this dude coming forward, man. What do you think?
I agree with you. So I agree with you in its totality, man. Really, I think that Ciryl Gane is the future of the division as well. Like I said in the beginning of the show, I do think he will be the heavyweight champion at some point in his career, especially if Francis decides to walk. I just don't see, besides Stipe or John Jones just kind of inserting themselves, I don't see who can really compete with the Ciryl Gane right now. Because like I said, he was able to take the power of Ngannou, take the man to 5 rounds. I mean, yeah, you ended up losing via wrestling, right? So it goes to show, in terms of being on the feet, man, fighting your fight, making anybody in the division fight your fight. He even had made Francis fight his fight in the beginning until Francis said, I'm tired of this. I'm just going to slam you because I'm a huge specimen of a human being. So, you know, like I said, shout out to both of these fighters. Once again, y'all must have forgot Francis Ngannou. I don't understand how we just forget so quickly. I get it. What have you done for me lately? But really, come on. And I'm going to be honest with you, AJ. I hedged my bet this weekend, man, and I threw in a little parlay on Ngannou and Figueiredo winning the both of their respective fights, bro. It was incredible plus money on those odds, man. So it's one of those where you have to. Like, you're dumb not to. It ended up working out, man. Made my money there. Terrible picks, but I made my money there. All right, AJ, brother. So rapid fire. A couple questions for you. I just want you to give quick succession, okay? First one. Is Ciryl Gane the proverbial Francis Ngannou in this situation where, like, Francis Ngannou versus Stipe #1? Francis lost definitively, but he came back with a vengeance, learned so much, and basically has been on a tear ever since then. We're not counting the Derick Lewis fight, right? Is Ciryl Gane the Francis Ngannou proverbially in this situation? Like, do you think he bounces back from this loss and just goes on a tear?
Oh, 100%, man. I do not want to be, I would not want to be the fighter that has to fight Ciryl Gane next, man, especially going in, having to deal with that, especially if he learns and grows. Yeah, I do think he's the proverbial, in that same spot that Francis Ngannou is. We can only have a devastating loss like that and not get better. So I think that's exactly where Ciryl Gane is lining up to be. Like I said before, we're going to see him for a long time here in the future. Yeah, man. So one of the things that I thought was interesting is it just reminded me of what Calvin Kattar said to Giga Chikadze after he beat him in their fight. He says, listen, man, there's nothing you can do now. All you can do is make the next man pay. And like you said, I would not want to be the next man to fight Ciryl Gane. I'll just put that out there. Okay, AJ, next question I got for you. Is this the last fight of Francis Ngannou's UFC career? Ooh. It might be, Derick. It might be. He even gave the boxing shout at the end. We saw Uncle Dana not put the belt around him. There's some shade being thrown. I don't know, man. This is looking like we might see the end of the Predator on a dub too. Yeah. I mean, it'd be crazy to see that. I don't think that's actually going to be the case, but there's a little bit more behind the story than is being let out, man. I'm very curious as to why Dana didn't put the belt around him. He didn't even want to be in the cage, man. He knew what was going on, threw in the shade that Uncle Dana likes to throw. And then with the fact that Francis Ngannou said that he always has boxing in his back pocket, it's leading a little bit more towards me thinking that it might be Francis that's pulling the plug, saying, I'll take the championship and I'll dip just like Triple C, just like GSP, just like all the other greats out there that have done that. We might. What do you think?
It's tough because I do think that if they can get some contract negotiations going, I mean, there's nobody who's going to say no to the right amount of money, right? Because I think that's some of the stipulations Ngannou is tired of. He wants the amount of money. He wants some respect. He wants just a couple stipulations taken care of because he's the champion and you shouldn't be fighting for $600,000, which is what his reported payout was tonight when you were a champion, when you were the caliber of an athlete that Francis Ngannou is. Because he is a star athlete, legitimately, right? But we'll see, man. I'm really not too sure. I just think that we have to let it play out. Let the situation play out a little bit. Next question for you, AJ. Do you think that the UFC, the company, the brass, not just Dana White, but the brass, wanted Ciryl Gane to win this fight? Do you think that they were trying to set this up to be like, okay, whatever, Francis, we're the UFC, we don't need you, we have a new champion anyways? Do you think that was kind of the case?
I think so, man. I think there was definitely some shade being thrown around there. I think that the entire UFC wanted Ciryl Gane to win, nonetheless to face Dana White. So yeah, I mean it's unfortunate. I hate when people play favorites like that or play sides. Like you should just be faithful to everyone because you're employing them all. They're technically all your contracted employees. So yeah, it's a little shady to be honest with you, but I do think they wanted Ciryl Gane to win for sure. What do you think?
You know what, man? I'm not sure because I want to say yes because of just the way that they were hyping him up. Ciryl Gane was the new shiny toy, the next hot thing. Oh, look at the sparring footage. Look at it. He's fucking up Francis. He could do anything that he wants. And, you know, Ferdinand Lopez talking about, yeah, man, he hit him with whatever he wanted to. It goes to show it's just different. Sparring and fighting are two different things, man. They're just two different things, man. So I'm not sure, but I'm going to lean on the side of saying yes. And the last thing that I have on this one, if Francis Ngannou does indeed walk from the UFC, what is the story of his UFC career? Like historically, is he a Hall of Fame fighter? Is he like where are we looking at? And let's just take a look real fast at the tape, right? Francis Ngannou, 17-3 in his MMA career. We're looking at it. First decision win against Ciryl Gane, but knocks out Stipe, knocks out Rosenstruck, Junior Dos Santos, Cain Velasquez, Curtis Blades, Alistair Overeem, Andrei Arlovsky. I mean Anthony Hamilton. I mean, Curtis Blades twice, right? You know, the only losses he has on his career in the UFC are against Stipe and against Derek Lewis, and we're looking down, and you know, this is the second win of his fight of his entire career. Right there, you have a loss, but overall, man, when we're looking at the knockouts, 11 knockouts, 5 submissions, 1 decision, and in the UFC, it looks like he is 12-2 in the UFC. He is he has 1 title defense to his name, but I mean, what is the story of a Francis Ngannou at the pinnacle of his career, at the end of the totality of his career, if he does walk?
Yeah, it's rough because I don't necessarily wouldn't consider him a Hall of Fame fighter, even though I do think he has that potential and he has that caliber. I think he just needs to just stay a little bit more active. It was a year since the last time we saw him fight, so it's rough to say that he's in there, you know, with some of the greats. Although he's beaten a lot of the greats, man. He's beaten the Alistair Overeems, the Stipe Miocic, you know, those kind of fighters who we do hold in very, very high regard. And unfortunately, I don't know why, but Francis doesn't get the same kind of respect. It's crazy to say. He really doesn't, though. He really gets a lot of the snub. You know, he doesn't get the respect he deserves. And I think it's a little bit both from maybe the conversations they were having behind closed doors. That's why the media doesn't really promote him enough. But even for this fight, he wasn't promoting himself. He wasn't promoting himself enough, nonetheless, just the fight. So I think he just needs to stay a little bit busier.
Yeah.
Where is his tenure lie right now? I do think he's one of the dangerous and scariest mans in the world and the planet, fighting for sure. But that's not necessarily the highest acumen he has in his potential. You know, I do think he can go a little bit further, but right now he's just dangerous and scary, not necessarily the greatest.
I do think that you probably have to give him the Hall of Fame nod, given just the status of the Hall of Fame right now. You know what I mean? Dudes like Kevin Randleman, you know, he's in there, right? And, you know, respect to the legend, the beast that is Kevin Randleman. Rest in peace on that one. But I just think that, like, given the knockouts that he's had, non-title fight related, just because Stipe and DC did hold up the heavyweight division for years, right? Let's not forget that. I think that these Hall of Fame credentials are pretty much there, especially, you know, now you have the championship, you defended it once. But I would, to be like that legit, like, oh, are you a GOAT? Are you one of the best heavyweights of all time? Yeah, you need a couple more title defenses, because John Jones has what, like 11 title defenses, 15 title, something ridiculous, right? So until then, John Jones is pretty much the GOAT, man. But hey, listen, and still, brother, that's what we got to say about that. Francis Ngannou, he got the dub. Listen, man, it was a fun night of fights, man. And if there's anybody we didn't mention, we apologize. I guess Jazz Vidicius, we do need to just show a shout out to her. This was the first fight of the night. But listen, she got a big upset win against Kay Hansen. Kay Hansen, she looked really tiny at flyweight, man. It might be a little bit of a mistake for her to try to move up there. And Jazz Vidicius, she just, you know, she's a brawler, but she decided to grapple in this one. Got the dot on that one. Lastly, your sleeper, brother, Tony Gravely versus Simon Oliveira, man. Tony Gravely notched a career high, at least in the UFC, 11 takedowns in that fight, man. Very impressive. He thinks he's the best wrestler in the division. I'd probably agree. That was a fun fight, man. Would you agree? Just a fun night of fights. But the prelims probably were the star of the show. That kind of carried the boat, don't you think?
Oh yeah, the prelims definitely carry the show. It goes to show that you need to watch those prelims, folks. There's a lot of fun on them, and a lot of these people that we're seeing there are going to be the future and the face of the main cards coming forward, man.
Absolutely. Let's not forget, before Sean O'Malley was just a pay-per-view fighter, man, he was on the prelims. Guess what? All of these dudes, they start off on the prelims. So just leave that for what it is worth. Once again, drop a like, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you're watching along with us, folks, QR code over there in the corner somewhere, man. Go check us out, show a little bit of love. But if you can't do that, just share the show with your friends. We appreciate you guys. AJ, let's get into a little bit of matchmaking, man, because we don't have too much time left here on this program. Francis Ngannou, like I said, rumor mill, this might be his last fight in the UFC. But if it's not, hypothetically, what are we doing? John Jones? Does Stipe ever get a rematch? Because right now, if we're being honest, AJ, if Stipe and John Jones are out of the mix, the winner of Derek Lewis versus Tai Tuivasa or the winner of Alexander Volkov versus Tom Aspinall literally have the most merit in the heavyweight division. So when you take away Ciryl Gane, when you take away Stipe, take away John Jones, literally, there's like nobody in the heavyweight division right now. It's a very shallow division in terms of the top 10, top 15. So where are we going next with Francis Ngannou?
I think you firmly have to go Stipe or John Jones. If John Jones ever fights, I have a question mark next to John Jones because he's not an actual for sure. So I do think Stipe deserves this one. I don't know if Francis Ngannou wants that smoke though, but maybe he might. There might have been a reason why he's ducking him, but I think that's the fight to make. It's crazy to think that, like you said, man, it's that Volkanovski, Aspinall, Derek Lewis, Bam Tuivasa.
Volkov, not Volkanovski.
Volkov, excuse me, not Volkanovski. Volkov, excuse me. But those are the fighters that claim the most merit.
Yeah.
They're still a middle of the ground fighter, man. So it's interesting to see. I think the Stipe fight's a fight to make, though. What about you?
Yeah, man. I think the right thing to do is like Stipe get back in the mix. He deserves it. I mean, this was the GOAT heavyweight just a couple years ago, but it's like people have forgotten about him. It's almost like he's not even a UFC fighter anymore. That's how much he's out of the spotlight, which is crazy. But I mean, he's firefighting, doing his thing, All right, brother. Deiveson Figueiredo, the fourth fight with Brandon Moreno is pretty much a must. Outside of that, the winner of Askar Askarov, who's number 2 in the division, and Kai France at number 6. That probably makes the most sense. What do you think is more realistic? The winner of number 2 versus number 6, or just the fourth fight with Brandon Moreno?
I think the fourth fight, especially with like the roar of the crowd that was going on, I think that's the best fight to make. Don't forget about Pantoja, though. Yeah. He has a claim to it as well, but I think the fourth fight is the fight to make.
So just very rapid fire, quick question on this one. Just give me a very short response. Do you think that it's a little unfair? This is kind of Stipe DC trilogy-esque, right? Where you're just kind of holding up the division. Like, what are these other dudes fighting for then at this point? You know what I mean? Because they're like, we're trying to fight to get to a title. Y'all just keep fighting each other. You know what I mean? This is going to be literally the fourth fight in a row where it's just these two fighting each other. I mean, I don't know. What do you make of it?
It's a little unfair. It's taking up years out of people's times, especially when everybody has a shelf life. But I mean, at the same point, if you're not there doing what they're doing, you can't really complain too much. So
yeah. You can also argue just kind of bad timing, really, right? So sucks to suck. All right, AJ, welterweight division? Michel Pereira. He's listen, probably moves to number 17. He was kind of 18. He's like that almost top 15. I think he's ready for the top 15. So I think we just rebook his original fight against number 15th ranked Muslim Salikov. Listen, that was the fight. Like, he got the ranked opponent, fell out, had to fight Fialho. I think he is ready for the ranked opposition. Do you agree?
I think so, man. I actually like that Salikov fight. I like that a lot. I went with a fun choice. I just wanted to see, Pereira is a very fun fighter. I want to see another fun choice. I want to see him fight Khamzat, man. Khamzat Chimaev. I think it'd be a great fight. I think Pereira might lose that one, but I think it's still a great fight. It'd be a lot of fun to watch.
I think it would be fun, but it would be fun in the fun that we consider what domination is fun for us, right? You know what I mean? In the eyes of the casual, Khamzat just smashing Pereira and that's it. I don't know how fun that is, honestly, brother, but I like it. I would take that fight, but I think Khamzat probably is he's trying to look a little bit above, not outside of the rankings right now. Okay, man. Saeed Nurmagomedov. Well, I don't really know where he needs to go right here because he beat Cody Stamann. You think he's a top 10, top 15 fighter. I think he's in top 10, top 20 type status. I don't know where we go with him. So I mentioned earlier, Rafael Assunção, right? That's the easy name if you just want to fast-track Nurmagomedov and you really want to get him through those rankings. Feed him to Assunção. Let him finish off the career. You know what it is. No disrespect, but like I said, 4-5 losing streak for Assunção right now. It's just not looking very pretty. So I thought that the winner of number 23, Timur Valiev, and number 21, Jack Shore, which is happening on March 19th, I think that could be a good fight for Nurmagomedov in terms of slow rolling him, letting him build up his skills, letting him get a little more cage time, octagon time, and then kind of moving forward. What do you think about that matchup?
I like the slow roll. I think it's if you're gonna do it, I think that's the best way to do it for Saeed. I want the fast track, man. I want to see him fight Ricky Simone.
Oh
I
God.
I,
Oh God.
I want to see that fight, bro. I think that is the way to go. And we get to see if he's because we saw him against a very heavy wrestler in Cody Stamann.
Yeah.
But if he can do that to Simone as well, damn, bro, this dude's gonna be on the fast track for sure.
Absolutely. Now, does that happen? Probably not, just because if Ricky Simone, I believe he's in the rankings now. This dude has been unranked for so long, in the rankings, out the rankings. He's probably like, stay away from these non-ranked dudes. Give me some, you know what I mean, some dudes with some numbers next to the name. So I hear you. The last one, someone who's been calling out, man, Cheeto. That's all I put. Cheeto, question mark. Marlon Vera, is that a fight you want to take when you're a ranked fighter like Marlon Vera? Like, no, you're trying to get closer to the title. But I did think it was interesting to call him out, man. Shoot your shot. All right, brother. Michael Morales is the last one we got. He beats Trevin Giles. He was non-ranked coming into this fight, so to get a win over Trevin Giles is very impressive. Or Trevin Giles, apologies. I have one name, but I want you to give me your name first. Who do you think is next for the Ecuadorian fighter, Michael Morales?
Yeah, I wanted to see Michael Morales fight a dog, somebody who's going to be there grinding it out, man. I went with Semi the Jedi, man, Matt Semmelsberger. I think it'd be a good fight, very powerful, very fun to watch. Both fighters have their kind of styles going for them. I think it'd be a fun, interesting way to mix them up. What do you think?
That is a fun fight. I didn't really consider that, but that is a really fun fight. I like that. I actually went with number 64 ranked Abubakar Nurmagomedov. And the reason why I went with Abubakar is because, like I said, Michael Morales, we know you got power in your hands. We know you can stiff people. Well, Nurmagomedov, he has really good hands, man. I really do like his boxing, but obviously he has the wrestling in the back pocket. I need to see Michael Morales do something off his back. I need to see a well-rounded mixed martial arts fight, not just a boxing match, not just a brawl. I want to see a little more well-roundedness, and that's what happens when you get the big win. You get another test, a tougher test. I think Abubakar, he hasn't fought in a while. I think this would be a perfect test. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man. I think it's the same kind of style of why I like Semmelsberger. He has the power, but he can still take you down. He can still grapple you. He can make you pull you into those deep waters and keep that fight going. I like both of those a lot.
I like both. I honestly think that the Jedi fight is I like that one a little bit more, honestly. You know what I'm saying? So listen, folks, that's the matchmaking. UFC 270 main card winners. The last piece of business is just a little bit of a word on the street, which, AJ, believe it or not, we actually didn't hit any word on the street the last post show, man. So, apologies about that, folks. But let me just do this real fast. All I need to do is hop into my files one time, get the word on the street going, and then we can rock, brother. So in the meantime, let's start it off like this. In a surprise, and actually, I want to make a redaction, or I want to correct something that we said earlier. We said Silvana Gomez-Juarez, or Juarez-Gomez, either way, she landed one of the hardest shots we've seen at women's 115. I take it back. Jessica Andrade, let's not forget that she used to fight at 115, right? And in a surprise move, Jessica Andrade returns to strawweight to fight Amanda Lemos on April 23rd at a UFC event on April 23rd, right? So the former UFC strawweight champion Andrade, she'll cut back to 115 for a clash with a fellow Brazilian knockout artist. And listen, I guess both sides have agreed to the matchup, but the contracts haven't been signed, of course. Typical UFC move right there. But what do you think about the move back down to strawweight, and what do you think about this fight with Amanda Lemos?
It's an interesting move back down to strawweight to have to cut all that weight again. But she looks like a strawweight fighter, man. She's very small, very petite, but packs a lot of power in there. I like this fight a lot, man. It's against Lemos. That's going to be a scrap, man, especially when the hand, they're light, they're flying. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Interesting move back down, especially since she was already kind of in that top tier in that 125-pound class. But I think it's a good call. This one, dude, those two fighters, you say Lemos, man, that's going to be a blast of a fight.
Yeah, I think if Andrade can get inside and close the distance, man, Amanda Lemos is in for a rude awakening, because there's power and then there's Jessica Andrade. And listen, man, I don't know how many fighters are ready for Jessica Andrade. All right, brother. Actually, the one thing, let me just touch on that one more time. Now, if the UFC does indeed walk away from the Caitlin Chukagian business, you just lost your number 1 and number 2 contenders in the flyweight division, so you literally have nothing at that point. So I think it'd probably be a wise idea to keep Caitlin Chukagian now, especially if Andrade wants to stay at strawweight, but neither here nor there. Okay, so medical suspensions from UFC Vegas 46 from last week's card. Giga Chikadze faces an indefinite suspension. Calvin Kattar potentially out for 6 months. My question to you is, do you think Giga Giga Chikadze needs to take the Calvin Kattar approach and take a year off after just taking so many shots. Or, I mean, well, if it's an indefinite suspension, I just don't even know what that means. They're just like, until we say you just can't fight. Like, what does that even mean? What do you make of this?
Yeah, man, he had to suffer a lot of injury, man. I think 3 different cuts on his eye all around. I think they're just really trying to protect this man. Maybe not a year, but a couple months, 6, 7 months for sure. I think we see a layoff of Chikadze, so that way he can get his mental game right too, man. Yeah. The indefinite suspension, I think, is a little worrisome because there might be an injury that they're not disclosing that might take a little bit longer to recover till they actually start doing some tests, start doing a little bit more examinations and whatnot. But I think it'd be a good call either way for Giga to really just take a step back, evaluate, and then make that next person pay and suffer. So that way he can get back to the top, man. Yeah. I think Giga, I've been praising Giga for a very long time. And I do think this guy will see championship gold in his future, but take that little bit of rest, recuperate, come back even better than before. I think it's a good game plan for Giga going in the future, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And, in the wise words of Goku, he says, hey, sometimes rest is more important than training. So, you know what I mean? Rest up, brother. Rest up, Giga. You got a bright future ahead of you. Sorry for all my Dragon Ball Z references, folks. I know I'm a nerd. All right, last piece of business, AJ. UFC's light heavyweight champion, Glover Teixeira, officially has his next assignment. Teixeira will face Jiří Procházka at UFC 274 on May 7th. This will be the Brazilian's first title defense, as reported by Brett Okamoto of ESPN. A lot of people, AJ, are already saying Teixeira just basically is ready to hand up the belt to give it to Jiří Procházka. I don't know, brother. I think Teixeira might have a title defense in him, to be honest with you. But either way, this is a fun fight. This is honestly not the way, if Jiří does win the belt, not the way that people envisioned him winning against a dude like Glover. I think they expected somebody like a John Jones, expected somebody like even a Jan Blachowicz. That was a little more enticing. What do you make of this?
I think it's going to be a fun fight, man. Don't sleep on Glover, man. Don't sleep on old Glover. Homeboy can still crack even though he's old, man. I think this is going to be a good fight. Again, another fighter I've been praising for a long time. Jiří Procházka is the real deal. Like you said, Derick, maybe not the most intriguing or enticing fight that we could have made, but I think it's the correct time. I think Jiří really, he kind of fell off. He had a very meteoric rise and then kind of fell off, tapered off a little bit. So I think it's good he's getting back in against Glover, a very dangerous opponent. Don't sleep on him. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. So, listen, that's the word on the street, folks. Now, we got a new card coming up on February 5th, right? So, I think that's like the week before the Super Bowl. I don't know why, AJ. The UFC, we just had this month-long break, and now we're taking another week off. It gives me an extra week to just sit here and just, think about all the ways I failed this week on the card, man. 1-4 for me once again. 4-1 for AJ. AJ has the hot hand on the over and unders on the main card picks. He's killing it right now. So I got some ground to make up for sure. But listen, man, that's neither here nor there because I'm coming back with the vengeance. You dig, brother. AJ, man, though, real fast. I got to do a little shout out, man. Hit up BloodyWaterPodcast.com. We always got our new clips up on here. You could watch, you could listen. But what's important, AJ, as I mentioned in the beginning, is we got a little bit of merch, right? We got some new merch listed here. So, of course, we got the classic Bloody Water Podcast stuff right here. But if you guys are interested, we got Bloody Water Martial Arts. Look on the back, it says train, study, win. We got the Bloody Water Podcast logo on the mug. Got the logo, same thing here. This is one of my favorite designs, though, if I'm going to be honest with you, AJ. Whether we're looking at the crew neck or whatever, but look at that. It's just simple. Bloody Water Podcast, established 2020. Looking beautiful, man. I really enjoy this black crew neck right here. But whatever it is, whatever you're looking for, we got it for you guys. Even when we're looking at the chest logo, come on, man. Look, got the gray, got the blue. I don't know, AJ. I think it looks beautiful. So, folks, if you need a little bit of reminder, use code BWP10 for 10% off all merch, man. We got a lot of different stuff up there. Slowly but surely adding new stuff to the storefront every week. Kind of like that, something like that. But that's really all I got for my rant on that. Folks, hey, listen, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. As always, AJ, give me some last words before we get out of here.
Woo, go check out the merch. That new stuff is fire, man. I'm a big fan of that little pocket logo, the BWP. Right. Go check it out. Make sure you hit the comment or hit the promo code. Save yourself a little bit of money. Also tune in, like Derick said, we got a week off, but we're going to be back with some fire. So if you've made it to this point in the episode, we love and appreciate you. Go hit us up. Go, there's a little QR code right here, wherever it is, to help us out. But even if that's not your style, make sure you share it, like it, send it to your friends, hit us in the comments. We really do appreciate it so much. Look at that poster too, man. This next not next week, but the week after is going to be a lot of fun. So you better tune into the show. like Derick said, I got the hot hand right now, but even then, man, short memory, I'm still gunning for that top position. I'm going to keep it pushing. I know Derick's going to do the exact same. So let us know how much money you made in the comments below. I want to hear how much my people winning out there, you know.
Right.
If you're looking at me, you're looking at these bets, you know, come on, I know you're winning some money. Let me know how you're doing. Any other than that, man, have a great week. We'll see y'all soon. It's been fun.
Absolutely. And just a little bit of a context situation here for saying that we will see y'all soon. No UFC next week. Once again, we keep saying it, but we do got a little something. So let's take a look, AJ. We got a Bellator card coming up. Bellator 273. This is going to be January 29th. We got Ryan Bader versus Valentin Moldavsky. Fun fight for the heavyweight championship in Bellator. Let's not forget Bader is coming off of he lost his light heavyweight belt, and then he lost in light heavyweight Grand Prix. So, you know, rough stretch for Ryan Bader, but we also got some fun fights. Benson Henderson versus Islam Mamadev, Henry Corrales versus Aiden Lee, Sabah Hamasi, the return, always the fun, Sabah Hamasi versus Jalil Willis. I mean, we got some fun fights. Saad Awad, if you don't know who he is, folks, that fool can scrap versus Chris Gonzalez. Lots of fun fights overall, man. So I think this is probably what we'll be covering next week. Bellator 273. You gotta love it, man. We're not just a UFC program over here. You know, we are sorry, folks. I actually didn't have us chilling right here. Boom, move us right there. Bow. There we go. See those beautiful faces. Yeah, actually, folks, we didn't, you know what I mean, haven't had the full gambit of mixed martial arts thus recently. It's been a big takeover for the UFC as of late, but like I said, this is a combat sports program, not a UFC program, even though UFC is the main thing that we cover. Nonetheless, AJ, we've been on here too long. Let's get out of here, brother. It's been a pleasure and honor. Folks, until next time, peace.